Hello, hello. Hey everyone, it's Tara here.
And AJ.
And we wanted to, a lot of you have asked us about what happened over the past couple months. You might have remembered a month or two ago, actually the beginning of January, I posted a video about separation and conscious coupling. And a lot of you sent me emails of concern, even my mother-in-law. What happened, we're concerned that we had separated. So this is the backstory, in case any of you are wondering. Yeah, so we wanted to talk about what caused, like why we separated. And it wasn't your typical separation when you think about in a marriage. But what it was is I have grown so much over this past year, and part of our work has been connecting to higher self and being so tuned in and being so willing to do whatever higher self says. It's that kind of commitment. And so my higher self told me to say to AJ, I want a separation. And there were some things, you know, as we're raising our vibration, there were just some patterns, some things that weren't in sync with what we're creating in the world. And I saw AJ's divine self, and I know the mission that we're here, and there were things that were not in sync. But I was so scared to say this.
Yeah, it was actually pretty profound and really, I mean, courageous of Tara to actually bring that up. But you know, I think, you know, the awesome thing about Tara is she's all in. You know, she takes big steps and she just dives in with whatever she's doing, and that's how she's taking on this personal development. You know, really expanding her consciousness. And you know, it's interesting when you're in a marriage, you have ups and downs, you have highs and lows, and ebbs and flows, and all throughout that process, you know, sometimes you're kind of leading the charge, and your partner's following, and vice versa. And it was interesting because as she was saying that, even though, you know, your partner could be right, you could make them wrong. And I just remember just being so upset, like, how dare you? How dare you tell me that you want to separate? I'm so awesome. But at the same time, I knew there was something, you know, I knew all of a sudden my ego was so strong with my reaction that, whoa, I knew I needed to calibrate on what she was saying, even though I was trying to make her wrong. And there was this other thing going on inside me that I knew I needed to up level. I just didn't want to address it. And that's what was powerful at the time. Actually, looking back, it became even more powerful because I was really saying yes to, you know, doing some development. And at that time, I just said, yeah, I'm going to go spend the time, I'm going to burn the house down, I'm going to cut all cords and really do some deep work on myself. Yeah, and it's funny because AJ said, oh, that was really brilliant what I said when I told him I want a separation. And it wasn't, I can't claim that brilliance, I just listened to higher self. There were no stories. I had done all the personal work and all the things, you know, when you get in a relationship and he said, she said, and this is like all that stuff I cleared. I looked at my part and what is my part in creating him showing up a certain way, because we co-create each other, and people only show up according to your beliefs, subconscious beliefs. They should just show up and mirror that. And so when I cleared all of that out and just spoke from higher self, it was really scary because I didn't know. I mean, he could have said I want a divorce, or I'm going to go get another woman. You know, we have kids and we have a pretty good life here. So there was a lot at stake, and I'm sharing this because are you so committed to your divine self that you are willing to do whatever it takes and to obey?
it takes that level for all of us on this planet, that level of commitment and tuning into higher self. I really believe that if we all seek this, we will shift this planet. There will not be the challenges and violence and all the crazy stuff that you see, because once we connect to higher self, because we have the answers. You have the answers. You have the divine blueprint within you. So, yeah, so I shared this, and part of it was so beautiful because AJ spent the past 5 weeks. It was kind of, we both, I was a single mom for a few weeks, and I got to kind of see what that was about, because that was one of my biggest fears. Like, not so much just being alone, but like being here in Costa Rica in the jungle. What would that be like? I see other women doing it, and I actually had that in my mind, like, I don't know if I could do that, like have the 3 kids. There's a lot more to negotiate, and AJ takes care of a lot here. But I got to do that and actually feel like, oh, you know, I could actually do this. That's not why we stay in a relationship, right, because of convenience. and so you want to share about what your journey was?
Well, yeah, I think for me, what I really felt, and sometimes it's amazing how you could think you're doing all this development, and last year we did a lot of development, but somewhere along the line I started to backpedal in different areas, like small little things. You know, it's not big stuff. It's always the small things that creep in and start, you know, the ego and things slip in here and there. I just felt I needed to take some big steps on these little things. And so, as Tera said, you know, we had this discussion. She felt we needed to separate. I'm like, fine, I will separate. I'm gonna go do this retreat. And it was incredible for me because I realized that how much my ego was really driving me still, and by going and separating and saying, you know what, I'm cutting all ties. I'm just going to focus on me, and I hadn't done that actually. I can't remember the last time I just focused on me. And we've gone to couples retreats. We've done different things, but not necessarily just me. So for me, it was very powerful to really just focus in on my, you know, building the best version of me, and regardless of where it went. And that's the beauty of really when you say, hey, I'm going to let go of everything I know.
Yeah.
Even though you love it, even though it's everything you know, when you can,
an attachment. When
you can jump out of that, it's so powerful because you not only see what you love and what you enjoy, but you also see things that maybe need to be tweaked. And I went through a process. It was a complete transformation.
Yeah. Integration,
transformation, and I really burned my ego hard. I mean, my ego was in places I had no idea. It slipped here and there, and by just observing all these emotions and patterns that were coming up, I would just, wow, it was shocking. It was I went deep, and there was a lot of breadth and depth to my journey.
And this is the thing, for those of you that you're in love, you're in partnership, or you want to be in love, it is so, part of that journey when you're with a partner is seeing the divine in the other. Like I've seen AJ in higher self. He's a king. He is a king. I've seen him. I know him, and just as he sees me. And part of it is requiring, seeing that and expecting that we each show up in as king, as queen, as partnership, and not enabling each other. Not settling for less. And for many women, and I'm sure that's also for men, it's like we settle. You know, you're like, maybe you're on a growth, like some track of development, and you your partner's not in that same place, and you just settle for it. And we're sharing this because when you're crystal clear on your vision, you hold that vibration, and you are completely on purpose, then the other person is either going to shift up to match your vibration, or they're going to fall away. And part of our journey was being detached, that I would be okay and that he would be okay no matter what. Because ultimately we'll all be okay no matter what. Because we don't want to be with each other because we're afraid.
Or there's a need.
Because we're afraid to be alone.
Scarcity, yeah, right.
Yeah, like, all the kind of things that the ego, like, who else would want to be with me? Or like, I'm getting older now, or the kids, like all these kind of reasons why society puts like why we be together. That's not why we're together.
Well, and I think too, what's really powerful about that is when you kind of shed all of that, you really start showing up as the most powerful, best version of yourself. Because, I think sometimes you go, oh, we got to do it this way or we got to do it that way. But when you realize you don't, and that it's a choice, and that the way you show up, when you take that ownership of how you show up every day, it's very powerful. And I think for me, that was one of the biggest takeaways, was the ownership in how I show up.
I think what you mean too, like the ownership, is a lot of times you let things happen. How your kids show up, how someone takes care of the pool, and then, if you don't like it, we often, human nature, we complain about it. Instead of taking leadership and really consciously designing, this is the life that I want. This is the kind of foods that we have in our house, and the kind of foods that we're eating, the kind of health that we want, the kind of harmony, how we're shaping our children. And so it takes that conscious leadership.
Right. And I think it's also having that growth or the abundance, affluence mindset versus the fixed scarcity mindset, where you really start leaning in and have the courage to really push yourself and how you look at things, how you do things, totally differently than if you're concerned if safety and survival versus thriving is at the core of what your motivation is. And for me, all those things are what's really powerful when you start really focusing on burning the ego.
Yeah, and it's this dance. I mean, we all have ego, we all have our human self, and then we have our higher self. And often there's some of us, like if you have a spiritual practice or a religion where, we pray to God, and yet we only give certain things to God. And what I'm talking about is that kind of devotion that you're listening to higher self every moment, in terms of what you eat, what you say, who you call, how you're running your business, how you're teaching your children, everything. That level of commitment to higher self. And most of us just compartmentalize it. And so I am on a mission. We are on a mission to connect. Personally, we've done that journey, connecting to higher self, and that each of us show up and connect to higher self. This is the mission that we're on. And so we want to invite you to a retreat that we're holding, we're really excited about, in May, and it is the integration.
Yeah.
It is sloughing off those layers of the human self, those fears, the lack, the doubt, all that stuff that keeps holding you back. Because when you're in higher self, you are so friggin' powerful. And that's my commitment. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. We're on a mission. We're on a mission because if all of us say yes and agree to this, we will solve every single problem on this planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about love. I think that's when we drop into our higher self, we drop into our heart. It's all about love. And that is the core of it all. When we lead with our hearts, when we really connect with that higher self and just let everything else go, it's just pure bliss, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and bliss we can be feeling bliss pretty much all of the time. It's a choice. And I see Ben saying hi. Hey, Ben. It is a choice. It's waking up. That's been my journey this whole year. It's awakening. It's awakening to higher self. It's doing that in partnership. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. We live in a world where there is magic. The sunsets, I surf with the mermaids.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and it's not about like, hey, look how great our life is. It's what's accessible for you too. We can live at a higher level, live at a higher law. And there's just so many of us that settle, that we got schedules and this, and we're like fears
it gets so wrapped up in our heads, you know.
Yeah.
That
your head's the biggest liability.
It is. It really is. And when you can observe all the things going on, all of those emotions in your mind, and just say, yeah, I appreciate you, ego. I really do. I love you. But I'm not going there anymore. I'm stepping into a new reality, a new dream, you know, being awake in the dream. I think that is, you know, it's the biggest call. I think that's, it's the most amazing thing, and it's a scary thing too, you know, but as you step in.
It's responsibility. You have the power to consciously design every aspect of your reality. And that's why whatever, like if you look at the news and the stuff that people are complaining about, that too. And so what we're sharing is we have the tools. We've gone through the journey, made a heck of a lot of mistakes, and what it takes is releasing the limiting beliefs, the emotional blocks. It takes connecting to your intuition, learning how to trust it. Like whatever my higher self says, I do. Most of the time. Sometimes I make mistakes still.
Well, it's powerful. I mean, that's a powerful statement. I think that is, and that's the thing that's just awesome about my supernova. She really steps into that as the best she can, you know, and that's all we need to do. This isn't, it's not that hard. I mean, it's a simple process. It's not easy all the time, but dropping into the heart, really connecting with your purpose, and you know, what are you doing, and why are you doing that, and constantly recalibrating. I think as humans, that's the one thing, you know, it's like the muscles, you know, if you're not constantly working them, they atrophy. And same thing with higher self. If you're not constantly calibrating, checking in, and saying, I appreciate you, ego, but you know, we're not going to play that game right now. Then that's the thing. You got to constantly be calibrating, and it's powerful.
It's a muscle, and you know, for me, I call myself a recovering academic. I spent a lot of time in graduate school, and that was a liability. And so often, you know, our head gets us so far. So maybe you've seen success because of your mind, and it becomes, I mean, when it's used properly, then it's great. When the first directive is, I listen to higher self at all times. And it's a muscle. The more we listen to it, it just, you know, I mean, higher self will tell me if I lose a credit card, like, where it is. I mean, I have that sense of knowing, and you can have that too. And I have another call that we have to go to, but we are inviting you to join us for the A-Life retreat. And if you want to dive into the tools, to have them for yourself, whether you're a coach, whether you just want to use them with your family, like me when I clear my daughter's ear infection, whatever that is. It's the A-Life retreat, the A-Life method retreat. It's the beginning of May. And PM us because you are worth it. You're worth investing in yourself. You are worth this integration. You are worth letting go of all the limiting beliefs, the fears, the holding yourself back. You are worth choosing now to live absolutely on purpose.
We're going to hold a beautiful space for you.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Give you lots of love.
Lots of energy work. You will walk away a new person. Powerful. powerful, integrated higher self. So, and we got some fun activities because you can't come here and hang out with us and not play and eat really good, yummy, organic food. So if that sounds attractive, you're ready to give that gift to yourself, then PM us. We love to chat and invite you to share this time with us.
Ciao.
Bye.